glad everybody could be here. My name is Terry Cagliari. I'm the neighborhood team leader for Staten Island for Change.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I want to welcome you to our fair island. Many of you don't come here that often. Glad that you can make it today. Before we begin today's reason for being here, many of you know that today is World AIDS Day. And 30 years ago, I remember in the 80s going to lots and lots of funerals, not knowing what was doing this destruction and how it was going to end. And
Make it louder.
I'm here today just to say I'm glad that we have come very far in that struggle. People are not dying with HIV, they're living with HIV, and I think that's a big accomplishment that we should all be happy about. We don't have a cure yet, that's the next step. So why are we here today? Congress has until December 31st to make a critical and historic choice. They can ask the richest 2% of Americans, those making more than $250,000 a year, to pay their fair share, or they can put more money in wealthy pockets at the expense of the struggling middle class and the 97% of small businesses. If Congress fails to let the Bush tax cuts expire for the richest 2% middle-class families across the country, will see their taxes go up more than $2,000 a year. Unless Congress acts, 114 million middle-class families are staring down a tax increase starting January 1st. We want a clear statement from Representative Michael Grimm. Will you stand up for the regular New Yorkers who need help? Yes. Or do you stand with the millionaires and billionaires? In order to rebuild Staten Island, Representative Grimm, you must vote to end the Bush tax cuts now. The Senate has already passed legislation to keep the middle-class taxes from rising. Now it's time for the House Republicans to act, rebuild New York City, and protect our essential safety nets. We need to grow our economy from the middle class out by investing in education, innovation, and infrastructure, while asking the wealthiest to do their fair share. Cut the deficit in a balanced way. Trickle-down growth didn't work before. It is not going to work now. So why am I here? I'm a teacher here on Staten Island. I have seen 10 positions eliminated from my school. Not because the number of students have gone down, but because the money has gone down. That means class sizes have increased from between 8 to 10 children per class. This is elementary school. This is a foundation. This is where basic education needs to be taking place. When you start overcrowding the classrooms, that basic education comes into jeopardy. As a mother who has children who finish college, I was very happy when they get their financial aid statements to see the Pell Grants helping them to get the financial aid that will allow them to stay in college. That even me, as a working parent, was not able to afford to give them the college education that they so richly deserved. But with the help from Pell Grants, this became a possibility. And why I'm standing before you today, lastly, is about the Staten Islander. We, as you know, were hit very, very hard by Sandy. For many days, a couple of days, I had no idea what this was like, what the rest of the island was like. I lost power, and I had, lost my telephone, and so it's kind of like in this no man's land. And then I went down to Midland Beach and Newdorf. I was devastated. I was like, how did this happen? I couldn't believe it. To see possessions, I don't want to call it trash, just lining the streets, mountains of it, was just mind-boggling. And when we're talking about cleanup, we're not talking about taking a broom and cleaning out a house. We're talking about taking a crowbar and lifting up wet carpets off of the floor and taking up floorboards and pulling down walls and taking out insulation. And when you cleaned out a house, you literally cleaned out a house. You left it with just studs. That was a cleaned out house. It's unbelievable. And now, you know, you're going to make a cut to these people. They need that money. How are they supposed to rebuild? How are they supposed to build their lives up again? Just, I'm devastated, and I don't even live there. Just takes my breath away that anybody could think of not handing these people the money that they need. It's not a handout, it's a hand up. 24 people died on Staten Island. 18,900 residents have registered for FEMA. Mr. Grimm, how could you turn down the needs of these people? Okay, I'm going to turn over the floor now to Mr. John Soldini. For 75 years, Social Security has been a fundamental pillar of middle-class security in America. During their working years, Americans contribute to the fund in exchange for a promise that they will receive an income in retirement. Social Security is not a government handout or an entitlement. We work for it, we pay for it, we earn it. Mr. Soldini.
All right.
First of all, I want to say that Michael Grimm, the president of the United Federation of Teachers, and Tom Murphy, the chapter leader of the retired teachers, we have 55,000 of them, would be here and send their regrets that they cannot be here today to speak to you directly and in person, because they're in Albany fighting the battle up there, and very important economic and educational decisions are being made. And I want to thank all of you for coming out today, because we are true. I know it's the holidays, but just think of what the people on New York have just gone through. On Staten Island, in my old home, I went back to look at it. I felt a very mixed feeling. On the one hand, I had moved from there, but the people who bought my home weren't so lucky. If you look at the next couple of weeks, we are going to have momentous decisions made, not only concerning the recovery from the devastating storm, but also whether or not we will have enough money to build an infrastructure so that when storms come again like that, they will not have the devastating impact that they have. And the same way that we face on the fiscal cliff, that decision is momentous. It could change the future of America, its very direction. And the Congressman Michael Grimm from Staten Island will be playing an important role. I followed his campaign. And if he lives up to the words he said during the campaign, there is some promise. But I know my mother taught me when I was very young that you don't just listen to the words, you follow the actions of the people involved. And that's what he has to do. Let me give you an example. He set out a pamphlet which said he put the care in Medicare. Now at the same time, he supported a Ryan budget that would turn Medicare over to the insurance companies and would strip many of its benefits. If he does care for Medicare, he would not allow that to happen. And on Social Security, he has been saying now, not like he did 2 years ago, the right thing. He is saying that Social Security is not a major problem. He knows, you know, I know, that Social Security has not added a single dime to the deficit. It must by law be balanced every year. And if it's not working, and if they cut Social Security, should vote for.
Definitely.
And as for education, Mike Grimm has been saying that the teachers, instead of being blamed, should be part of the solution, and that he supports public education. Well, if he does, then he should pass those job bills, because if they were passed, there would be thousands and thousands of more teachers being hired, class size would be lower. You can't support public education and cut the very funding for it. That's an impossibility.
That's right.
When Michael Grimm came before my community to speak, and this you're going to find hard to believe, he was challenged and criticized by Tea Party members. He was criticized because he had the audacity to talk to Democrats in Congress. And he was criticized for bringing what, in my age, was called pork barrel legislation and is now called earmarks. He answered those questions very, very well. He said that, look, you can't be an obstructionist in Congress and get anything done. You had to be bipartisan in order to solve the problems of America. And that's important. Very, very important. So Grimm has offered some hope with his words. He also, when confronted, one thing he has never cited, and one thing we must press him on, is for him to agree to cut and eliminate the Bush tax cuts for the 1%. Absolutely an imperative. He has never mentioned it. What he has said is that we should have a shared burden when the country faces problems. Well, so far, the 2% has gotten all the shares, and all we get is the burden. And that can't happen. Now, we're talking about if they go through, if they're renewed, $1 trillion over the next 10 years, adding to the deficit. Now, I don't know how many zeros are in a trillion, but I would like one more zero, and I would like that zero to replace the one, and that's exactly what I think should happen when we kill and we do not renew the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy. He claims that he has been a proponent for the middle class. He claims he is a spokesman for the seniors. Well, if he is, then he must fulfill the promise. The act must coincide with the words. If he doesn't, then instead of saving America and saving the middle class, he'll be pushing us off that fiscal cliff. So we have a lot of work to do, and let's work on Michael Grimm to make him live up to the words he said while he was campaigning.
Okay, first I'd like to thank Staten Island who are impacted from Sandy, who is with us today. Staten Island for Change, who's with us today. Patriotic Millionaires, New York City Communities for Change, Make the Road. You can clap for your group. CWA Local 1102, Professional Staff Congress from CUNY, Metro New York Healthcare for All, Citizen Action New York City, American for Tax Fairness, Move On, and the United Federation of Teachers.
One more. Brooklyn for Peace this year.
Okay, thank you, Brooklyn for Peace. We welcome you. Yes, Staten Island Democratic Association, yeah.
The Oaks in Oakland, California.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Maria Bellocapaya. She is a victim of Sandy. And as Mr. Baldini said, we've got 4 years to get Congress to put regular people first for a change. Grimm has a choice to continue tax cuts for the rich or invest in post-Sandy recovery for Staten Island. And I think Maria will make a very valid case for the need for these FEMA refunds.
And there's about 14 houses down on my block, and I am one of the only families still staying there because we got lucky and we have an elevated house, so only the first floor got wiped away. So we've been there for about a month now with no electricity and no hot water and no heat, and they finally came and put it on a month later. I have two small children in my home and a mother. It's just us women. My brother wasn't around for the hurricane because he was in the emergency response unit in the city, so they kept him for about a week. So we were on our own. We couldn't even get back into our house for a little while. So when we came back, we came to find that there was nothing left. No life, nothing. I'm sorry, I've never done this before. It was just very, very heartbreaking, and everything that we worked for, all the years that we've been paying premiums for insurance, I guess that didn't matter because insurance doesn't even want to cover us because we have an elevated house. So basically we're waiting on FEMA now, who is waiting for our insurance to deny us. And the process is still going, and we still have no end. We still didn't get anything except rental assistance and try and find an apartment now for a family of 5. It's impossible. So now we are stuck in the house, still there to this day, living it, experiencing and watching it every day. We don't need supplies. We got enough supplies. We need money. We need money to fix our homes and have a good life. We don't need trailers. All those people who are screaming for trailers, that's not the kind of life I want. I will not take a trailer. I own a home. I want a house. I want my kids to live in a house. Trailers will not work for me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
The fact that I'm still alive, the fact that I've got a place to live, is a function of what we've come to call the social safety net. I've got Medicare. I've got Social Security. I've got a decent pension because I put in 42 years working for the city of New York. Now, these are things that do not make me an overprivileged individual. These are things that I need. These are things that I deserve. These are things that I've earned. And what's true for me is true for every one of us. True for every one of us. And the problem we face now is a phony, contrived austerity which would treat me and every other American citizen as an overprivileged, over-demanding individual. The answer is really very simple. The answer is tax and spend. Tax and spend. Tax the rich. And spend for the jobs and spend for the safety net that every one of us is entitled to. And this is the message. This is the message that Congressman Grimm has got to receive. This is the message that Congressman Grimm has got to respond to. This is the message that we're here to deliver to him. Thank you.